Tokyo 2020 to conclude today. Successful Olympic campaign in history. India sign off from Tokyo with 7 medals, including 1 gold, 2 silvers and 4 bronze. India on cloud 9 as NEERAJ Chopra clinches the country's first ever gold medal in track and field. President, Prime Minister and others congratulate NEERAJ Chopra on the stellar performance. Chopra dedicates medal to track and field legend Milkha Singh. Relief and rescue operations continue in flood-affected areas of Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan. Union Minister Narendra Singh Tomar visits affected areas of Madhya Pradesh. India's cumulative COVID vaccination coverage crosses 50 crore 62 lakh. Over 50 lakh doses administered yesterday. Johnson & Johnson single-dose vaccine approved for emergency use in the country. All weekly markets in Delhi to reopen from tomorrow. In sports, Jasprit Bumrah's 5-wicket haul sets the stage for a nail-biting day 5 of the first test against England. India need 157 runs to win, with 9 wickets in hand on the final day. Good morning. Welcome to English News. I am Anil Thomas this Sunday morning. Now for the stories in detail. First up, the Summer Olympics and the final day of action today. The world's biggest sporting event, Tokyo Olympics 2020, will come to an end today after 15 days of breathtaking action. The Summer Games, which were delayed by a year due to COVID-19 pandemic, bore witness to some great moments of triumph, history and the crackdown on gender barriers. For India, BAJRANG PUNIA will lead the proceedings after being officially named as the flag bearer for the closing ceremony. With 7 medals, India has recorded its best ever haul at Tokyo Olympics this time. Meanwhile, a fortnight later, the Paralympics will begin in Tokyo. They will be played from the 24th of August to the 5th of September. India will also take part in this important sporting competition with 24 athletes, including 20 men and 4 women. Well, the last day for India's participation in the Tokyo Olympics on Saturday witnessed history being created. NEERAJ Chopra became the first ever Indian to win an Olympic gold in track and field events at Tokyo Olympics. NEERAJ, with a best javelin throw of 87.58 meters in the final throw on Saturday, finished at the top and became the second ever Indian Olympian after shooter Abhinav Bindra to win an individual Olympic gold medal.
A star is born. Meet India's Olympic champion, NEERAJ Chopra. First Indian to win gold in track and field. NEERAJ Chopra created history by becoming the first Indian to win an athletics gold medal by winning the men's javelin throw at the Tokyo Olympics with a best throw of 87.58 meter. Chopra is only the second Indian ever to win an individual gold. Shooter Abhinav Bindra finished on top of the podium in 2008. Chopra is also the first Indian ever to win an athletics medal at the Olympics. Just like he had in the qualifying round, NEERAJ Chopra led from the time he completed his first throw till the finish. NEERAJ was the second to throw in the 12-man final and he got off to a fine start with a throw of 87.03 meter. He then bettered it with an 87.58 meter on his second and 76.79 meter on his third. In fact, the 2 biggest throws in the final belonged to him. This is now India's best ever medal haul at the Olympics, surpassing the 6 medals tally they won in London 2012. While PV Sindhu, Lovlina Borge, the men's hockey team and BAJRANG PUNIA won the bronze medals, Mirabai Chanu and Ravi Kumar Dahiya won the silver medals earlier. Chopra rose to prominence when he equaled the national record with a throw of 82.23 meters in the 2016 South Asian Games, where he won the gold at the age of just 19. A few months later, he would smash that mark en route, creating a world junior record in the IAF World Under-20 Championship in Poland with a throw of 86.48 meter. His gold-winning exploit would continue to the Asian Championship, the Commonwealth Games and the Asian Games. NEERAJ Chopra is now the poster boy for Indian athletics and has a unique distinction of being the torchbearer of Indian athletics for decades to come. Sports Desk, DD India.
Well, while NEERAJ's moment of glory will be played out in our minds and hearts, our attention should also go towards BAJRANG PUNIA, who trounced his opponent 8-0 in the 65 kilogram category freestyle wrestling bronze medal match.
BAJRANG PUNIA overcame the disappointment of losing the semi-final in men's 65 freestyle category to win the bronze medal by utterly dominating the third seed Dolat Niabakov at the Tokyo Olympics on Saturday. The first point went to the Indian as the Kazakh was unable to go on the attack after being given a passivity warning. At the end of the first period, he led 2-0. A handy lead, but things can go wrong at this point. Punia, however, didn't sit back on his laurels and kept attacking in the second period. He was rewarded by a two-pointer when he locked his opponent's ankle. He then made it 6-0 advantage within seconds, moving from leg to the back in an instant. The Indian men pressed home the advantage to make it 8-0, and that is how it ended. Bajrang was one of the favorites coming into the event, but he is in the first Olympics, and for now he will have to satisfied with the bronze. Congratulatory messages started pouring in as soon as Bajrang clinched the bronze medal in wrestling. Starting with President Ramnath Kovind. In a tweet, the president said, "A special moment for Indian wrestling. Congratulations to Bajrang Punia for winning the bronze at the Tokyo 2020. You have distinguished yourself as an outstanding wrestler with untiring efforts, consistency, tenacity over the years. Every Indian shares the joy of your success." Prime Minister Narendra Modi tweeted, "Delightful news from Tokyo 2020. Spectacularly fought Bajrang Punia. Congratulations to you for your accomplishment, which makes every Indian proud and happy." Union Sports Minister Anurag Thakur also congratulated Bajrang Punia for winning the bronze medal at the Tokyo Olympics. He said Bajrang Punia has made India proud. The sports minister also shared a clip of him watching the winning moments. The sports minister also shared a clip of him watching winning moment of Bajrang Punia.
मैं बिल्कुल सभी का प्यार और आशीर्वाद लगातार मिल रहा है और खुशी है इस बात की कि भाई हाँ देशवासी हमने देश के लिए मेडल जीता, सभी देशवासी हमारे लिए इतना मतलब प्यार और सपोर्ट कर रहे हैं। तो मैं अपने आप को भाग्यशाली मानता हूँ कि मैंने देश को जो सुनहरा पल दिया है उसके लिए मैं अपने आप को भाग्यशाली मानता हूँ। और मैं कोशिश करूँगा कि 2024 में जो पेरिस में जो ओलंपिक है उसमें मैं अपनी तरफ से बेस्ट करूँ और देश के लिए जो उम्मीद अभी लगा रहे थे वो इसमें पूरा करूँ उसको।
जी हमारे लिए तो जैसे सेमीफाइनल में जो बाउट लूज हुई थी उसके बाद हम काफी मायूस थे। ये रात कटी हमारी बड़ी मतलब बहुत भारी रात कटी क्योंकि हमारे ऊपर बहुत ज्यादा जिम्मेवारी थी हमें, क्योंकि बजरंग का गोल्ड ही मान के चल रहे थे। लेकिन पीछे एक महीने पहले एक टूर्नामेंट खेला गया जिसमें उसके इंजरी में घुटने में इंजरी आ गई थी, तो मेरे को लगा जो वो पूरी तरह रिकॉर्ड नहीं हो पाई थी, इसी वजह से थोड़ा बाउट में हम लूज हो गए। लेकिन अब आज जो था इसको हमने समझाया कि जो ब्रोंज मेडल होता है वो भी बहुत बड़ा मेडल होता है और देश को तेरे लिए सब बैठे हुए हैं आंखें बिछाया कि भाई बजरंग मेडल लेके आए और वो देशवासियों का सपना तेरे को पूरा करना है।
Haryana Chief Minister Manohar Lal Khattar lauded the performance of Bajrang Punia. He expressed that Punia's performance has made the whole country and Haryana proud. Meanwhile, celebrations broke out at Bajrang Punia's home in Sonipat district of Haryana, and it quickly spread across the country. Family members and friends distributed sweets to people and danced to the tune of dhol. Punia has kept the tradition of Indian wrestlers winning hearts and medals with sheer grit and determination. Sports Desk, DD India.
Well, Madhya Pradesh has been witnessing severe floods which follow the incessant rains. However, from Thursday, the intensity of rainfall in Gwalior and Chambal divisions started going down. Over 1,250 villages were affected by the deluge, while the authorities said that the flood situation is slowly improving and at present no life-threatening scenario exists in the region. He added that the rescue operations in the affected areas is almost over and relief work is gathering steam. In all, Gwalior, Shivpuri, Shiopur, Datia, Ashoknagar, Guna, Bind and Morena districts were affected by floods. IMD has predicted heavy rainfall at isolated places over Madhya Pradesh today and tomorrow. Meanwhile, Union Agriculture Minister Narendra Singh Tomar yesterday took stock of the state's flood-hit Shivpur. Speaking to reporters, he expressed that centre as well as state government's commitment to rehabilitate people and rebuild infrastructure. Moving to Rajasthan, due to heavy rains, flood-like situation continues in many districts of the state. Kota, Baran, Bundi, Baran and Jalawar districts have been receiving heavy rains for the last 7 days, and due to this, the water levels of the rivers of this region is increasing. A rescue and relief operation is being undertaken by the NDRF and the army, moving stranded people to safer places. IMD has predicted heavy rainfall at isolated places over East Rajasthan for today. Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla on Saturday took an aerial survey of the flood-affected Kota district. He visited the affected areas and took stock of the ground situation. Moving to the fight against COVID and vaccination drive in India, India's cumulative COVID vaccination coverage has crossed 50 crore 62 lakh. Over 50 lakh vaccine doses were administered on Saturday. Over 18 crore 72 lakh vaccine doses have been administered in the age group of 18 to 44 so far. Meanwhile, in a major boost to India's vaccination drive, emergency use authorization has been granted to US drug maker Johnson & Johnson single-dose COVID-19 vaccine. Minister for Health and Family Welfare Mansukh Mandaviya made the announcement in this regard, saying India has expanded its vaccine basket. In a tweet, he said Johnson & Johnson single-dose COVID-19 vaccine has been given approval for emergency use in India. Now, India has 5 EUA vaccines. This will further boost our nation's collective fight against COVID-19. On India expanding its vaccine basket, the pharmaceutical giant Johnson & Johnson in a statement said, and I quote, "This decision was based on top-line efficacy and safety data from the phase 3 ENSEMBLE that includes clinical trial, which demonstrated our single-shot vaccine was 85% effective in preventing severe disease across all regions studied and showed protection against COVID-19 related hospitalization and death beginning 28 days after vaccination. This is an important step forward in accelerating availability of our COVID-19 vaccine to help end the pandemic." In Delhi, all weekly markets will reopen from tomorrow. Making the announcement in this regard, Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal in a tweet urged everyone to follow COVID-appropriate behavior after the markets are opened. The weekly markets were closed after the lockdown was imposed in Delhi on April 19th due to the surge in cases during the second COVID wave. Later, one weekly market in each municipal zone was allowed to open with proper adherence to COVID-appropriate behavior and official guidelines. Meanwhile, a total of 72 fresh COVID-19 cases and 1 death due to COVID-19 was registered in the national capital in the last 24 hours, which was considerably higher than the 44 cases that were reported in the city on Friday. The Manipur cabinet has decided to discontinue the ongoing curfew imposed to curb the spread of COVID-19 and adopt a micro-containment approach. To maintain balance with livelihood and economic activities, it was decided to discontinue curfew and adopt a micro-containment zone approach in line with central government's advisories. To strictly enforce the new approach, the Deputy Commissioners are tasked to fully involve Gram Panchayats, village authorities, local clubs, among others. The decision of the Cabinet comes 2 days after the Union Health Ministry deputed a multidisciplinary central team in the state to aid the management of COVID-19. Karnataka witnessed new guidelines for controlling the spread of coronavirus in the state. Besides revising the night curfew to 9 p.m. to 5 a.m., the state authorities introduced curbs on districts bordering Kerala and Maharashtra in light of a surge in the neighboring two states. Earlier, the restrictions on movement in the night began at 10 p.m. In the wake of the night curfew, advances by an hour across Karnataka, operations of Nama metro trains in the city have been deferred. According to the Bengaluru Metro Rail Corporation Limited officials, the last train from terminal stations will leave at 8 p.m. instead of 9. The change of schedule is in effect from August 7th to 16th. Further, all gatherings including social and cultural continue to be prohibited. During weekend curfew, essential services continue to function. People can step out for vaccination. President Ramnath Kovind on Saturday interacted with the members of the Union Council of Ministers and hosted a high tea for them at the Rashtrapati Bhavan Cultural Centre. Apart from Prime Minister Narendra Modi and members of the Union Council of Ministers, the Vice President of India was also present on the occasion. Moving to international stories, first up, taking a look at COVID-19 numbers from across the world. The world continues to fight the COVID-19 pandemic. So far, over 20 crore 29 lakh cases of COVID-19, recovery 18 crore 22 lakh, total deaths or fatalities 42 lakhs 98,000. United States of America continues to be the worst affected both in terms of infections as well as fatalities. In terms of infections, 3 crore 65 lakh. In terms of deaths, over 5 lakh 35,000 deaths. The United States is grappling with the rising number of COVID-19 cases. The 7-day average for new daily COVID-19 infection in the country has surpassed 1 lakh. Amid a surge of Delta variant of COVID-19, doctors and public health officials are advocating vaccination and masking, saying that the overwhelming number of hospitalizations and deaths are among the unvaccinated. New daily COVID-19 cases in the United States have hit a 6-month high, with the 7-day average reaching nearly 95,000. Notably, cases and hospitalizations have spiked in the last month. The country was averaging nearly 11,000 cases a day in June end. Now it is 107,143. The virus is rapidly spreading among unvaccinated populations in the Deep South, Florida, Louisiana and Mississippi. So far, 49% of the U.S. population of 330 million is fully vaccinated.
99% of all the individuals that I see that are hospitalized are all unvaccinated. I will say that there is a level of distrust of either the medical profession or certainly of politicians amongst those individuals. And what I find most interesting is a dichotomy that, in fact, I see both populations in the intensive care unit, and those are unvaccinated people. That is the common thread. With the Delta variant, those that are vaccinated with the Pfizer vaccine have an 80% chance of not having symptomatic disease, and certainly are 2.5 times less likely to become hospitalized. So that is a significant number. You know, clearly this is a disease of the unvaccinated.
Afghan President Ashraf Ghani has promised that we will find the killers of Afghan government's top media officer Dawa Khan Manipal and punish them. Menapal, who had served as the spokesperson in Afghan President Ashraf Ghani's outreach team, was assassinated by Taliban fighters on Friday in the capital, Kabul. Senior U.S. diplomat in the country had also condemned the killing and termed it as an affront to human rights and free speech. The assassination was the latest by the hardline Islamist group to weaken Ghani's democratically elected Western-backed regime. Scores of social activists, journalists, bureaucrats, judges and public figures who were fighting to sustain a liberal Islamic regime have been killed by Taliban fighters in a bid to silence voices of dissent in the war-torn country. The leaders of Iranian-backed Lebanese group Hezbollah Hassan Nasrallah on Saturday said his group had chosen to respond to Israeli airstrikes on open land but could escalate its action in the future. Hezbollah on Friday fired rockets towards Israeli forces, drawing retaliatory fire from Israel into South Lebanon. Both sides targeted open land. Nasrallah said this week Israeli airstrikes were a dangerous development that had not been seen in the last 15 years. He said the group wanted to show any Israeli airstrike would be responded to in the appropriate and proportional way. The exchanges began on Wednesday with a rocket strike on Israel from Lebanon, for which no group claimed responsibility. Well, wildfires batter several countries across the world. The worst wildfire ravages across Northern California, burning bicycles, charring forests and scorching communities in the region. At least 8 people go missing as the fire destroyed forest and tinder dry scrub in the Sierra Nevada mountains and a historic gold rush town. The calmer, less windy weather gave firefighters a break overnight with the Dixie Fire, that is the third largest fire in California's history. Nearly 4,47,000 acres have already been burned in the Dixie Fire. Earlier in the week, the fire was reported as 35% contained, but better mapping clarified the area. In Greece, residents flee their homes as strong winds on Saturday pushed the wildfires into the suburbs of Thermokedons, burning several homes. Residents rushed out with buckets and hoses in an attempt to put out blazes that had erupted in yards. Local residents outside Athens also assisted firefighters to tackle the blaze. More than 700 firefighters, including reinforcements from Cyprus, France and Israel, have been deployed to fight the blaze, assisted by the army and waterbombing aircraft. Meanwhile, in Turkey, helicopters and planes continue to battle multiple as an outbreak of wildfires entered its 11th day. Tens of thousands of hectares of forest have been destroyed in the Mediterranean and Aegean province in what President Tayyip Erdogan has called Turkey's worst ever wildfires. 8 people have died and thousands of Turks and tourists have fled. Strong winds, low humidity and temperatures above 40 degrees Celsius have contributed to the spread of the fires. Meanwhile, firefighters in southern Italy and Calabria region battled wildfires with high temperatures, low humidity and strong winds fanning the flames. Aerial footage released by the local fire brigade showed forest fires engulfing a mountain in Bagladi near Reggio Calabria, while during Saturday night firefighters were trying to contain a blaze in Ghizeria near Catanzaro. Well, that's all we have time for in this edition of news. But remember that fight against COVID-19 continues. We all need to get ourselves vaccinated. There are more vaccines that have been added to the list. But please consider this Sunday as a good opportunity to get yourself vaccinated if you have not. And when you step out to get yourself vaccinated, always follow those guidelines. The 3 guidelines: sanitize yourself, mask yourself, and maintaining social distance at all times. And when you step out to get yourself vaccinated, please do not forget to get one of your loved ones, get one of your dear friends along with you, because when you go for vaccination, get more and more people with you to get themselves vaccinated, because you not only do yourself a good, but you do humanity a larger good. Remember, you and I need to see a better tomorrow. For that, more and more people need to get vaccinated. So stay safe, stay happy, stay healthy. That's it from me and my entire team. Thanks for watching. Have a safe and wonderful Sunday ahead. Bye-bye.
As India presides over the United Nations Security Council, we talked to Ambassador T.S. Tirumurthy to know about India's vision, guiding principles and priorities.
Overwhelming majority of the UN member states, they firmly support the comprehensive reform of the Security Council. So an expansion of the Security Council, both in the permanent and the non-permanent categories, is now indispensable.
As well as signature events planned for the month of August.
There are three major areas which we will focus on in August: maritime security, peacekeeping, and counter-terrorism.
Watch India at UNSC at 8 p.m. on Monday, 9th August, only on DD India.
Well over a year since the COVID-19 outbreak, the world is still looking for answers. How did the COVID-19 virus originate? Did the virus jump from wildlife to humans? Did it leak from a biolab accidentally? Or is it a biological weapon developed in a laboratory to wreak havoc? BioQuest is back to trace the origins of COVID-19, only on DD India.
Namaskar and welcome to our series of programs on the economy. Today we are going to be discussing whether the MSMEs have the potential to take India to the $5 trillion mark faster if they are more quickly associated with Digital India. To discuss this, we have with us Mr. Dinesh Tyagi. He's the CEO of Common Service Centers, which is a platform associated with Digital India, and Akash Sinha is the co-founder and CEO of Cash Free. Also joining us is our correspondent Arun Sharma, who has covered Digital India and digital subjects for many years. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for being with us. We'll start with you, Arun. Just to give us an idea, uh, India has the cheapest rates, isn't it, of mobile data anywhere in the world. But when we look at that and we have to try and understand how broadly spread is this, if we can say we have the cheapest rate, but how widely spread is it?
Oh, absolutely. So a decade ago, 1 GB used to cost 250 rupees, 300 rupees, but now the cost has come down in double digit. That means less than 10 rupees. Now, in last 7 years, government has created a fantastic digital ecosystem, digital infrastructure, so that primarily the digital services are not limited to tier 1 towns or the big cities, but yes, it is gradually going towards tier 2 town, tier 3 town, villages as well. Now, look at this way, initiatives like Umang, whereby more than 21,000 services are there in one single platform. So what government is trying to do, Mark, that government is trying to integrate this entire digital infrastructure so that each and every stakeholders in this infrastructure do gets benefit of it. Now look at this way, the startup ecosystem, we are in top 3 startup ecosystems globally. This means a lot. Government is coming out with various initiatives like PLI initiatives. This gives a major push to the digital infrastructure. Last year, we know this fact that, Mark, that Prime Minister Narendra Modi announced from the ramparts of the Red Fort that, the villages will be connected via optical fiber network. Okay. 250,000 gram panchayats will be connected via high-speed internet connectivity. Not only that, when we talk about Andaman and Nicobar, government is laying the optical, the high-speed broadband cable via that's a sea cable, and ensuring that high-speed connectivity can reach to the Andaman and Nicobar Islands as well. That means government is ensuring that internet connectivity can reach to far-flung areas as well, so that everybody can upgrade themselves to digital infrastructure. Mark?
Right, but Mr. Tyagi, so the infrastructure is in place. We know that we have the cheapest rate of mobile data, but is it actually being utilized, to create digital services to basically boost the digital economy, the digital marketplace?
Internet penetration in India, even in rural India, has enhanced significantly. There is a significant internet penetration, and more than 50 crore of people use internet in that sense, which is a very substantial number, because if you take families in that sense, fairly all families are using internet in sense. Whether this broadband enabled internet, which is the BharatNet project, where the Honorable Prime Minister mentioned that the fiber to home, every village will get connected with optical fiber. Yes. Once that is implemented in 1,000 days, you will see a phenomenal uses. The appetite for internet in rural India is phenomenal. Our own examples where we do and sell internet through BharatNet has shown 400% increase in appetite in the users of internet as compared to last year. So look at the users, which is enhancing significantly, and this usage is for what? The usage may be for empowering communities to try and access services, maybe for enabling them to access service which they want to access government or non-government services, maybe also be able to try and do self-help group women creating their own marketplace. Right. And trying selling commodities and products for them. So it's the availability of internet, good quality internet and access and uses indicate that there's an assimilation within the economy, and this assimilation in the economy is actually adding to the value and the growth in that sector.
But Mr. Sinha, would you say that small businesses are automatically making this move to join the internet marketplace? But it probably starts with digital payments, isn't it? And there are still some who are reluctant to use digital payments, despite the fact that UPI is so widespread.
What we have seen, right? Like businesses who want to try UPI, look, everyone is aware of UPI. They know there's a technology works on mobile. The larger fear is, what will I do if something goes wrong, right? I mean, they don't have right access points to handle their grievances. Right? So we may have to work a bit more on the awareness. We may have to work on a bit more on the comfort. And that is a larger problem of majority of Indian merchants, right? They don't have a lot of fallback, or they don't have a safety net. And that's why they take every step with a lot of caution. If you want to bring them digital payments ecosystem, we have to give them all the comfort which they need, right? If say for some reason they lose 1,000 rupees, 2,000 rupees, there might be, if there is some insurance, right? I'm not sure the insurance gets them. If they have some fallback mechanism, with their banks can be helpful, right? Then they'll be more comfortable and encouraged to use digital payments. Right, right now that safety net is not there, right? That's why people are afraid of taking this step. Few in the metro cities which we have seen are taking, because a lot of startup companies are there. They are in front of the shops. They're going and addressing their queries. But that is not happening in tier 2, tier 3 cities, right? We don't have a lot of startup presence in those areas first. And they don't have many number of labor force in that area to handle those merchants. But in my opinion, right, digital payments will also help these MSMEs connect with a wider consumer base. Right? A small seller in Uttar Pradesh can also sell a customer in Tamil Nadu and vice versa. Without digital payment, that is impossible, right? I mean, you can take orders on WhatsApp, but you cannot, ask them to pay in cash or do something else. So that will help MSME grow their consumer base, also innovate on their product, and that they can do only by coming to internet and adopting digital payments.
Indeed, but Mr. Tyagi, how much of this move is basically based on the entrepreneur making the move, and how much of it is based on the ecosystem? There is the brick and mortar world and the click and mortar world, but there has to be a hybrid of both. But, to try and make it work faster, does the government step in?
Sure. The government is an enabler. It creates only an infrastructure and a framework. They enable that part. They also do advocacy for it. Try and enhance the skills of people, try and make them comfortable. The apprehension phase, they address those apprehensions. Government does that part of the work. See, every small household now use digital payments, largely because COVID has actually given them, there is no other option but to use digital payment. So digital payment, it actually is an opportunity for government and also for the MSMEs to try and ask the customer, not only the MSME themselves, basically the customer who comes to them has to make digital payments. So the customer awareness, customer confidence level has to be enhanced significantly in that sense. And it is happening. Look at the AADHAR enabled payment system. We do that AEPS transactions in rural India and enable people to withdraw money, deposit, fund transfer, and mini statement and balance inquiry. In the last year itself, we have done 10,000 crore rupees of transactions. These are all rural India. All rural India people are now using, they're not going to the bank. They don't want to go to the bank. And COVID has put restrictions to the bank. So how do they do transaction? They do transaction using these digital tools. And ours is an assisted format. We don't have people doing themselves. Ours is the common service center, which is an assisted format. It's like a shop. It's like an MSME. It's a social enterprise. So all our 4 lakh common service centers, if you see the journey for us, the COVID has of course constrained them for opening and doing functioning. But within that constraint, there has been a 40% enhancement of the level of transaction during the COVID time.
Right, Arun, so let's try and get some numbers into the picture here, because the definition of MSMEs has changed. So now the turnover can go up to 250 crore rupees, and they are still considered, medium enterprises. Only about 10 lakh, apparently, according to some data, digitally connected. So there's a huge opportunity here. What would you think? I mean, what is the real picture like?
Well, if you look at the numbers, Mark, 1 crore MSMEs are there only in the state like Uttar Pradesh.
Okay.
When we talk about the MSMEs, close to 8 crore to 9 crore MSMEs are there. And yes, there is a huge headroom as far as technologically upgradation is concerned. The government provides an ecosystem, like the government provides incentives to MSMEs. That's number one. How easily the MSMEs can take loan from the banks if in case they're adopting digital methods or digital technology. Number two, there has to be an interface primarily whereby MSMEs can walk in, and can approach via digital medium, and of course then upgrade themselves. There has to be a one-stop or one window kind of a system in our country. So that is the need of the hour. And last but not the least, when we talk about this complete entire ecosystem of the MSME specifically, initiatives like PLI schemes are the game changer, because government is also providing incentives in close to more than a dozen of sectors. That includes hardware and telecom, not only big industries or the big, big players, but the MSMEs also do get benefit. And the initiatives that Uttar Pradesh, has launched, that is one district, one product. These kind of initiative also gives a big market, big platform to the MSME players. And the only the cause of concern for the MSMEs is to get the big market, and of course how to get easy financing. So if in case all this can be done via digital mode of platforms, that can give a major push to the MSMEs in our country.
Indeed. But Mr. Sinha, it's a precondition, isn't it, to be on a digital marketplace, that you have to have, you understand digital payments, and basically, basically everything is through the digital format. Is this the concern? I mean, is there a digital divide?
There are companies that we also work with. So those companies help these MSMEs and Kiranas create an online presence. Right? So they'll come to your shop, they'll scan your products, and they'll just create a nice shop for you, which you can share it over mobile with your customers. So there are initiatives being done by startup community which can help these MSMEs create a digital presence, be part of digital payments ecosystem, and try to grow their user base. Right? But this has to be done at a slightly larger scale. The companies that we work with, say they can onboard 50K or 60K MSMEs, right? But if you have to onboard 9 CR or 10 CR MSMEs, right, the effort has to be done at a slightly higher level. Right? We need more such enablers, right? So we need more such people who can go and create awareness, handhold them, and at least once they try it for 6 months, then these MSMEs can also go and train their other peers. Right? It will create like a good virtuous cycle.
Mr. Tyagi, it seems to suggest that the government is definitely playing an enabling role here. And the question is, how much more of an enabling role can the government play? The government has set up the infrastructure, the government has put policy in place, the government is going fast as far as digital payments are concerned. I mean, it's really moving fast. We're even talking about moving into e-rupee now, which is a digital form of currency as well.
I don't think that the MSMEs are not willing to use digital. At least in urban areas, I don't think there is any shop which does not use a UPI, a QR code, or a micro ATM. Today, everybody uses it. Even a small Kirana shop has a QR code on which you make payment. Rural, yes, there are challenges. There are challenges in the sense to try and educate people. See, both ways. Government can create infrastructure. It's the public which is going to put pressure on them. Public is the one go to shop and saying, look, I don't want to pay cash because of either COVID or other reason, so I will pay only electronic. Now, every household, at least in many areas, and now shifted from making cash payment to a digital payment. So digital payments is inevitable. And the assimilation within the communities is significantly happening around. With e-rupee, you just said, to transform the way you can transfer money. You can actually enable people to use money. So e-rupee today's launch by the Honorable Prime Minister is a significant step in order in that direction. Infrastructure, ecosystem, instruments, all designed and developed in order to help people and communities to make use of it. The MSME are using it. They are using it very significantly. And that's why it shows the number increase in digital transactions. Digital transactions are now overtaken China and America over a period of time.
Arun, if we look at some of the other gaps in our country, so there's a gender gap also as terms of digital. That creates more women-centric opportunities, women-centric demand, and also women-centric employment. So, I mean, if there is a new ecosystem that's developing, which is, favorable for gender parity.
I've been watching the Facebook. There are entrepreneurs who are uploading their stuff on Instagram, Facebook. They're making videos on YouTube. The women consumer is more. The homemakers primarily, they're uploading this stuff. They're trying to be into the market. They're doing types with the MSMEs, the small market, the MSMEs, and they're trying to upload this stuff. They're trying to get into the business. This is possible, Mark, because the government has provided them the platform. Now look at the numbers, Mark. No, broadband users, 800 million broadband internet users. When we look at the month of July itself, 6 lakh crore of the UPI payment has been done. Now, the UPI payment means that people are doing transactions online. When we talk about, e-rupees, again, another enabler. But, when we talk about the startups are, now getting listed. We have more than 24 of the unicorn startups in our country. And most of the startups are now getting listed in the stock markets. Women startups, entrepreneurs are coming in. Most of them, they're getting benefit because of the digital infrastructure that has been created by the government. And yes, we should not forget this fact that COVID has acted as a catalyst in this entire ecosystem.
But Mr. Sinha, the question that will come to mind is that, okay, I mean, there are startups, they're all moving in the internet space, but they're competing with internet giants. So the question is, how does one create a level playing field?
See, the first argument you made, right, is startups themselves are becoming internet giants for tomorrow. So, they are able to compete well. they're able to connect well with these customers or these business providers, right? They're able to handle better than internet giants, right? Internet giants can just launch a video and launch some larger reward plan. But these guys are actually going there, sitting with them, understanding the problem and trying to build a solution for them, right? I'll just take example of us, right? When we onboard a lot of these smaller merchants, so before us, they were in the habit of collecting cash. In cash collection, they get the money immediately. But in digital payments, at times money comes to your account after 1 day or 2 days, right? Because of the nature of digital payments. So there we understood the problem and we started settling money within 15 minutes of digital payments completion. So such kind of solution gives a lot of comfort to those smaller businesses and they can really accelerate the path towards adopting digital. So startups have a niche. I think they can, they have the benefit. They can connect with people on the ground and they can build solution which caters to Indian businesses at large. They don't have to worry about any global consumption at all. So I think we should have more and more startups. If more and more regional startups can come, that will benefit us faster. Instead of one startup sitting in Bangalore and spanning across India, right? We should have one startup, say in Bangalore, one in Indore, one in Nagpur, and they can understand problems of their sellers in a very local way, right? So that is what needed to accelerate this entire adoption of digital payments and digital ecosystem.
So, Mr. Tyagi, the question will come of scale. I mean, obviously, the internet giants are dealing on large scale, and there is the question of a smaller scale, which is with the village entrepreneurs and others who are providing smaller services. But the scale has the potential to build up. And I mean, would you see the internet supply chain basically feeding into is the system, getting more and more robust?
As mentioned, see, everybody has a role, whether they are internet giants or they are startups. They all are synergizing with each other ultimately with their objective of helping the customer or the MSMEs, as the case may be. So, and they're playing significant role. India is such a large country with so much of plurality and variety that everybody has a niche created for himself or herself in that sense. And so therefore, I don't think there is any reason for us to doubt that this internet giants will not allow the opportunity for small players. They will have a significant role to play. As mentioned by Mr. Sinha, you can have a local, with the technology framework enabled, you actually now create opportunities for small players wherever they are to also create a niche for themselves and do that part of it. They can be supportive roles, but I think, and by nature, Indians trust Indian systems far more than they trust an outside system.
Indeed. But I mean, more than the payment system, Mr. Sinha, the question is also about acceleration, because I mean, we're hoping to reach, let's say, the $5 trillion target, and we can reach it faster, through the digital mode. In that context, would you see that, there's a lot more acceleration that is taking place with more and more such companies beginning to sell online? I mean, selling everything online.
Definitely, right? I think, see, to reach 5 trillion economy, they have to increase the production of both goods and services, right? That's the fundamental way of growing it. And to help people be more innovative, we have to, let them access new knowledge, right? New knowledge easily. And that's where internet plays a bigger role. But suppose I am producing something at a smaller state, which is helpful in Europe, right? And the market is there, right? We just have to bridge the gap. See, people are aware, how do I put myself online? How can I communicate with customers, say, in Europe? How can I accept payments from them? And how can I deliver my goods there, right? If you just solve these 4 steps, then my production will grow automatically, right? One thing is grow production by tapping into the domestic market, which is already happening, right? Which is happening with this, all these retail e-commerce companies and all these startups, which we have.
Any specific skill sets? I mean, are we lacking in skill sets?
I think skill set is more around marketing, more about ability to, learn new things. I think marketing is pretty important. Customer communication is also important, right? How do you communicate the customer? How do you earn trust of the customer? And third is, supply chain logistics, right? Which I think, getting solved. But first 2, I think, is still missing at large. And that's where you see a lot of internet giants are having an upper hand. They're very, very good at marketing. They're very good at customer, service. And they're just using this Kirana as a, provider.
So, Arun, you've been covering, business for a very long time, and you've seen how the ecosystem actually operates. Would you see, I mean, what is the right balance? Because there is ultimately, it's pretty interconnected and it's also pretty advanced. at the same time. So there is a certain level of skill sets that are required to participate and succeed. The importance of a level playing field, the importance of government hand-holding and regulation of the bigger players so that they don't eat up the small in a sense, taxation, all sorts of issues are at play. How are they all playing out?
So if I may sum it up, Mark, when we talk about this entire digital ecosystem, there are a lot of challenges as well. Apart from acceleration, we need to do more and more incubation as well, because startups of our country have a lot of ideas. Initiatives like Atal Innovation Mission. We have seen how in Atmanirbhar Bharat App Innovation Challenge, a lot of startups, they came out with some of the fantastic ideas. There is need for incubating them so that they can become a global player. We can provide them with level playing field with other global players. That's number one. Number two is, of course, providing an ecosystem, a better digital infrastructure, and government is doing, in that context, in that aspect, primarily by creating a robust digital infrastructure. Third is digital literacy, Mark, because digital literacy is something that should be talked about. Because why there is a digital divide, why there is a digital gender gap primarily, it is because of digital literacy. When people are getting digitally literate, and government is also spending, cabinet has also given a green signal for, creating awareness or upgrading to digital literacy as well. Fourth, as I mentioned, cyber security, is one major threat. People are shying away or not upgrading themselves to digital infrastructure. Cyber security is one of the prominent reasons as well. And of course, regional aspect, a regional touch as well. The startups, the government should think more of a local in nature. The product, the solution has to be more local in nature. There has to be regional touch in nature, so that a person not only in Delhi, but a person in the deep in the interiors of Uttar Pradesh or in the interiors of Tamil Nadu or northeastern part of the country, if there is a regional touch in the mobile application, if the solution has a regional touch, people are bound to upgrade themselves.
We leave the final word to you, Mr. Tyagi. You're looking more at the rural market as well. So to what extent do you think, what's the future really of the digital rural market?
During the COVID time, one of the things which we came across was that urban people were able to place orders online and they were supplied. But the rural person does not have, even if you want to place an order, all the giants you talk about did not supply to rural India. What we did was we actually worked out and started a CSC Grameen e-store, which is an online platform, but it's hyper local. It's operated by local guy. He manages the entire shop. He shows the product which he wants to sell, and then he sells locally. And of course, he has these logistic requirements being met that can be supplied to house. And you will be actually astonished in the sense that with the last 1 year, about less than a year, we've done about 300 crore rupees transaction. And these are rural markets. Everybody has purchased. Everything has been bought. Some people started making homemade sweets and selling online. Some people took fishes from the farmer nearby and sold online. Right. So rural market has the potential to create giants in the sense that the hyper local will do a wonderful job. See, today in India, we need to understand that not only a single giant, but hyper local shops like the Grameen store, which were launched, have done phenomenally well, and they're going to succeed because they're operated, managed by local person, solve the local problems, not only bring the input, not only get supplies to the local customer, but also take local customer supplies and send it to outside the world.
Okay, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much, Mr. Dinesh Tyagi, Mr. Akash Sinha, and Arun Sharma for joining us. And it clearly appears from the sense of this. It clearly appears from the sense of this discussion that the Indian economy is set to hit that $5 trillion target a lot faster through the digital highway. Thanks very much for being with us. Namaskar.
Thank you.
सांसों में छिपा है ये पुरखों की कृपा है ये दिखलाएगा रास्ता हठयोगानुशासनम हठयोगानुशासनम में प्रसिद्ध जो, अपने आप सिद्ध जो, रखना इस पे आस था। अथ योगानुशासनम, अथ योगानुशासनम। योगारंभ हो, योगारंभ हो, योगारंभ हो, योगारंभ हो।
विश्व को भेंट दी हमने योग है। योगारंभ हो, योगारंभ हो।
जो सुलझा दे जीवन को वो योग है।
जो सुलझा दे जीवन को वो योग है।
अथ योगानुशासनम, अथ योगानुशासनम। बुद्धियुक्तो जहातीह उभे सुकृत दुष्कृते, तस्मात् योगाय युज्यस्व। योगः कर्मसु कौशलम्, योगः कर्मसु कौशलम्। अथ योगानुशासनम्, अथ योगानुशासनम्। भारत ने ही योग सिखाया, जग में फैलाया।
विश्व ने अपनाया, नियंत्रण आया रोग पे।
विश्व ने जैसे है पाया जो अधिकार ये, अब आरोग्य पे है सब हो पाया योग से। सदियों से रहा है ये, सब ही ने कहा है ये।
हरदम देगा आसरा।
अथ योगानुशासनम, अथ योगानुशासनम। योगारंभ हो, योगारंभ हो।
ये शरीर और मन का संजोग है।
योगारंभ हो, योगारंभ हो। जो सुलझा दे जीवन को वो योग है। जो सुलझा दे जीवन को वो योग है। योगारंभ
Your window to rising India. India's voice on global platforms.